Hey everybody, how you doing? Wow, a blockbuster deal happened just days before the 2026 NFL Draft. A number of you know that New York Giants mammoth defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence was not happy, and he wasn't shy about the fact that he wasn't happy. Um, he was quite, quite noisy in sharing the idea that, look, he just simply didn't want to be with the New York Giants anymore. He wanted to be traded. And the Giants decided to grant him his wish and managed to craft a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals where the Bengals trade him, and in turn, the Giants get into a situation where they now have a fifth pick in the NFL draft, first round, but also the 10th pick that was held by the Bengals. And so now the Giants have a lot of maneuvering room. But the question is, what do the Bengals get? Who gets the better end of the deal? Really, first of all, the Bengals have had one of the worst performing defenses in the NFL over the last 3 years. Last year, they ranked 28th and 30th, depending on the chart you read. Not only that, you can't look at the Bengals' front seven and say there is one person there that didn't perform up to expectations, and that's because they're ranked so low. Quite the contrary. But what Dexter Lawrence does is he brings the team a bona fide three-time Pro Bowl star. All right, bona fide three-time Pro Bowl star. And so the question is, with that bona fide three-time Pro Bowl star, is that going to make a difference with the Bengals? I argue yes. Dexter is 6'4", 340 pounds. That is an automatic nose tackle, an automatic run plugger, an automatic run stopper, and his statistics, the fact that he's a three-time Pro Bowler again, and his overall play say that he deserves to be considered one of the best defensive tackles, if not the best defensive tackle in the National Football League. So here he goes to an organization, the Bengals, in a division, the AFC North, that is really chock full of teams that have had great running games over the years. And the Bengals, particularly, again of late, were having a hard time stopping the run. Does Lawrence give them the opportunity to do so single-handedly? Considering the double teams he attracts, the answer is yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the Bengals should also draft another defender to really further strengthen that front seven. But then, what about the New York Giants? If that's the case, don't the New York Giants lose a heavy hitter if he's a three-time Pro Bowler? They do. But remember, he didn't want to play for the Giants. And so that means you're not going to get the best out of him because he believes that he's worth more than they're paying him, that he wants to be compensated the equivalent of the top defensive lineman in the league, and he's not getting it. And with the Bengals, Lawrence stands, barring physical, in line to be the player that receives that deal. So all parties are happy. But the Giants, I argue, are in a position to add Jeremiah Love with a fifth pick if he lasts that long, and by a number of indications he will. He's the great running back from Notre Dame, but also a 10th pick. Or they can parlay those two picks and move further up to get even better defender like some people believe Sonny Styles of Ohio State should be in the top five and will be in the top five. The Giants will be able to move up a couple of positions, assuming they can get a deal done, to be in that place. Will they do it? Well, we'll find out in a very short amount of time. But the Giants do have maneuvering room. My concern about the Giants is that they've had great defenders, not just Dexter Lawrence, but they've had uh, uh, the Abdul Carter, and Mr. Thibodeau before that. You can tick it off the number of defenders the Giants have drafted over the past 5 years. Okay, let's say the past 4 years. Okay, let's say the past 3 years. And yet, while their numbers have been effective at points, it hasn't produced a winning organization. Now, how much of that is a poorly coached and poorly designed offense? I would say a considerable amount. I really would. But also, how much of that is a defense that doesn't effectively run the right scheme to pressure the quarterback? I would say that's another problem too. Some people are so in love with one approach defensively, like insisting on two gapping, that they don't have enough of a varied approach to be able to stop the type of offenses that are sort of dialing up football plays that are essentially equations designed to attack a particular type of defense at a particular type of time and situation. A lot of teams have become very good at an approach to football that Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys and then Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots really first pioneered, and then with Belichick refined and took to another level. So it's a question mark. Now, John Harbaugh brings in a defensive experience. He's developed one of the best defenses in NFL history with the Ravens, but he got rid of a top defender. Will he still be able to build that defense without Dexter Lawrence? Again, the Giants have a number of great defenders that have not played to potential. They have players that should be stars in their area, to the extent that the Houston Texans have defenders that are stars, like, for example, Will Anderson, who just collected the highest compensation for an NFL player, not a quarterback in NFL history, thanks to his agent, Nicole Lynn. So, a lot of money. So, what is the outlook here? How should we think about this deal? First of all, again, the Giants have flexibility. The Bengals need more than just Dexter Lawrence, but he's a good start. But if the Giants can parlay their picks and move higher, or if they can stay pat and get a great defender and a great offensive player, and I believe Jeremiah Love is the answer for the 5th pick, and then they should add a defender with the 10th pick, and they're going to have a pick of the litter even at the 10th pick. That will help them build a team that on paper should be able to compete for a playoff spot this year. And that should be the Giants' focus, is trying to really turn around this consistent, almost chronic level of poor performance that has plagued the team over the past years. One would say that they're starting the wrong people at the wrong positions. For example, I'm not sold on the idea that Jackson Dart is the answer, and I think his backup, Jameis Winston, should start. Why? Because Jackson Dart is reckless. He insists on running. He's already been out of a couple of games because of his style of play. He has said at the podium that, essentially in a very combative way, this is the way that I play, deal with it, or words to that effect, which means that the handwriting on the wall for him is a short career if he insists on getting his head banged all the time when the situation suits him. That does not spell long career. It spells early flame out. It spells injury. And you don't want to see that happen to a young man with so much promise. On the other hand, Jameis Winston is seasoned, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, has a number of passing records, both in college and the National Football League, and as we all now see, plays very well and a ball control passing offense rather than an offense that asks him to be a gunslinger. So it's too bad that there are people who insist on seeing Jameis as a gunslinger, even though everyone, including you watching, knows he's a more well-rounded and versatile quarterback, a field general, capable of directing a team and getting the ball to talented players and making a difference. So what John Harbaugh does with this seeming mess will determine the future of the Giants. And I think we're going to have a really quick answer as to his ability to form a solution to the problem by preseason. Preseason, generally the last game of preseason, we're going to get a good idea of the kind of team that John Harbaugh will form with the New York Giants. And we're also going to get a good idea of what that team's going to look like with the 5th pick. If indeed the Giants stand pat with that. Now, I've got to believe right now they're on the phone trying to work deals. Then there's the Bengals. The Bengals issue is, I believe, a over-reliance on a type of defense that plays a little looser of late than I would prefer, that doesn't have schemes that pressure the offense, unlike the Cleveland Browns, which have really done a fantastic job of showing the NFL how to produce varied fronts that pressure a defense and give the right situations for their great defensive linemen like Myles Garrett. So it's going to be interesting next few days leading up to the draft, because it doesn't mean that anyone's going to stand pat just because this deal was made. And then it's going to be a interesting next few months to watch how the Giants in particular are put together as a team and organization. So does it change the NFL draft, the NFL mock drafts? Of course it does. Absolutely. I noticed on Google Trends, the term NFL mock draft kicked up a good 30% just overnight, well, just tonight, right? People running their mock drafts because now you've got to test out what the new draft order looks like and what player will go where in this new world order that was created by this trade between the Giants and the Bengals. So what do you think? Who came out ahead, the Giants or the Bengals? And do you think Lawrence is the difference maker for the Cincinnati Bengals? And what do you think the Giants will do with the 5th pick in particular, or those picks in combination, or what do you think they should do? Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark NFL News by Zenny62.com, the home for our coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft, aka NFL Player Selection Meeting. Thank you.